I was the graphic designer slash illustrator slash playback operator. I started out as the playback operator. So whenever you saw Scully typing, that was actually my work, pre-programmed work. So that's what I did.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit more about your role?
Oh gosh, where do I start? I was trying to explain to someone today what I do for a living. Um, well, I would do all the graphics for the show, not post graphics, not show graphics, but what is in the show, prop graphics, anything from signage to prop labels to redressing police cars or things like that, or any prominent script related visuals that needed to be done. And as I said, I started out as playback, so I would program and design all the pre-programmed sequences that you see on all the screens, the medical screens, or Scully typing, or, she would, if I remember rightly, she would end the show with summarizing, and she would do all the typing. That was actually pre-programmed, and I would be either under the desk or behind the camera activating that. And any illustrations that are needed or anything visually and graphically required. Does that make sense? A lot of visual stuff. And that runs the gamut. That runs from props to costumes to playback. To almost, I touch almost every department. So kind of an interesting, omnipresent job.
Sure, sure. It sounds like you were involved in a lot of different aspects.
Sorry, I have a lot of birds coming and visiting me right now. So if you see a finch fly by, that's normal.
Okay, very good. So it sounds like you were involved across the spectrum of the show.
Yeah.
Can you tell us some of your favorite memories from that time? Anything that sticks out for you?
Some of it would be offset, but I'm not going to talk about those.
Come on.
Sharing cigarettes with Mitch would be one. Not that I smoke anymore. I don't, and don't ever start. Favorite memories. I joined the show. May I tell you about the beginning of how I got on the show? Because it's not normal. We're talking 1996, I think. Liver spots bursting on my hands as I talk about it so long ago. And at that time, I was actually a freelance designer trying to get companies interested in the internet, this new thing called the internet, and trying to get them to do their business online. And I went to the I live in BC. I live in beautiful Vancouver. And I was trying to convince the British Columbia Ballet and, the big electrical companies and everybody to get online. And part of that was designing at that time, there were a lot of kiosks and they needed interactive programming done. And so I taught myself how to interactive program and went around trying to sell people websites that would allow people to pay their bills online and get their statements online and basically everything we do today, but back then. And no one agreed to do it. They said absolutely not. No one would trust doing anything online. You're talking nonsense. Get out of our office. And I ended up in a obscure little graphic design company that just so happened to have their office on what was then called Lionsgate Studios. I'm not sure if it's now called North Shore Studios, but this would have been 1997. And one day, a gentleman came in by the name of Greg Lowen, and I didn't know who he was. And he asked me to do a bunch of props things, labels and graphic design that way, posters. And I agreed to it. I did it. And then I found out he was on X-Files. And it just so happens that I was one of the millions of people that loved X-Files. And I couldn't believe, I feel myself feeling a bit of an idiot now, because I didn't realize not only did I live down the road from this studio, but this is where one of my all-time favorite shows was being filmed. I had no idea. And this person was the art director. I had no concept of the whole thing. And somehow I decided I was going to give him my portfolio, but I was going to do it the way that I could. And I did a pre-programmed little vignette. I would have to say it's comparable to what e-cards are now. You know, it was one button touch and things happen and animation happens and all on your computer. And back then it was pretty much classified as black magic. And so I gave him my portfolio, but I did it under the guise of X-Files. I had the X-Files theme come up, and it was pulsating, and it was titles slowly coming in and out, and it was introducing them to me and my artistic work. And after I gave it to him, and he must have showed several people, about a day later, I was hired. They didn't know what for, because it was, like I said, in those days, it was almost black magic what I was doing. It was like, how is that possible that we put it in our computer, we touch one button and all this stuff happens? It sounds crazy to say today, but in 1996, it was something. And so I got hired. And I was hired to do their playback, which is pre-programming those little sections so that when they film anything that you see on the screens, medical files or Scully typing or anything like that, that is actually pre-designed, pre-programmed. And that way, when you call cut, you could stop, rewind, basically, go back and do it as many sessions as you need. So it's controllable. And it's also synced to the camera, because the rotation of a regular TV or anything doesn't sync with a film camera. So you get that banding. So with playback, it's actually synced. So I think I actually started on Millennium first, which was the other Chris Carter show, shooting simultaneously. Mm-hmm. And then I was invited to the art department of X-Files officially. And I wasn't a union member. I didn't even know there was a union. This is so embarrassing. And the production designer came running out of his room going, we have to get her into the union. We have to get her into the union. And so I was rushed through to a union member. Should I even say this? I was rushed through to be a union member same day. Wow. Because I was valuable. Yeah, I had abilities that no one had seen up until that point. So
the black magic.
And the only woman that was doing it at that time, by the way.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So
I would show up on stage, because I'd have to wire all the computers for the sets, and I would show up like full gear with cables and monitor CPUs and all my garb, and they'd still think I was part of makeup because I was a girl.
Yeah. So if I'm getting the story correctly, you were working at an obscure graphic design place.
I was.
And then within a small timeline, you were working on one of your favorite shows. Is that correct?
Within a week.
That's wild.
Within a week, yeah.
How was that like for you? What was that like going to work?
As you can imagine, it was mind-blowing. It was absolutely extraordinary. It really was one of my favorite shows. I think at that time it was Friends and X-Files. But I liked X-Files because it scared me a bit. Yeah. And then there were the David Nutter episodes that just made me laugh. They were so weird. I just loved the show. I thought it was well crafted and great storytelling and had this ambiance that you didn't really see at that time on television. Mm-hmm. I think it set a lot of new spectrum for television, to tell you the truth. I really enjoyed it, and I couldn't, even to this day, I can't fathom that I was working on it. It's just a surreal, because when you're working on a show or a film, you're in it. Well, television's a little bit different. Well, back in that time, television was different because a week later you would see it on television, whereas now it's almost like a film where you don't see it for months on television, and then you see it all at once and you can binge it, But back in that day, it literally would show up the next week or 10 days and you could see it. And then for me to work on it and then see my work on screen the next week, it was coming from nowhere and being a part of, I believe at that time, because I started in season, I'm sure there are people out there that can correct me, but I think I started on season 4 or 5. So it was very well established. It was already the #1 worldwide hit. We would have fans waiting outside the gates of the studio from all over the world. And it was a phenomenon. And then to be a part of it is so surreal. But when you're working in it, it's just about the work and meetings and going over the script and deciphering it and visually putting it together properly and making it make sense for the camera. And then 10 days later, it has to be there. And, it's all about the high pressured work. So you don't have time to think about, oh my God, there's going to be people 20 years from now still talking about this. That's very surreal. It's surreal to be doing this right now, talking about something I did 20-something years ago. But I think that's a testament to the great writing of the show, Chris Carter's vision of the show, Gillian and David's perfect performance on the show. And I think it's lovely that fans embrace it still to this day. I mean, I watch it every once in a while. If it comes up or whatever, I'm still enthralled by it. It's got that great storytelling and that little bit of creepiness that seeps into your psyche that we all sort of think about. And you're like, oh, I didn't think anyone else thought that. And I prefer the slightly humorous ones, the nutter ones. I love the way that they twisted the drama with the kind of twisted humor. Those are my favorites. Because I think David's very good at doing comedy, subtle comedy. And those are my favorite episodes to watch. But I've recently watched a few of them. They're very, very early ones, the ones I weren't part of, and enjoyed them as much as I did back in the day. Absolutely. I used to look forward to those Fridays, just like everybody else. Yeah. And then to be a part of it, it was separate though. When you're working on it, you can still be a fan of it because like when you do a film, it's usually, when I do a film, it's 8 or 9 months before you actually get to see it in a theater, or used to be. And so you're so much has happened in that year, almost a year, that you're so detached from it that you can actually watch it and enjoy it and not associate with it. So it was kind of like that working on X-Files.
Nice.
Great show.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's not bad.
Oh man,
it's not bad.
I remember.
It has its moments.
Right. Those Friday nights. There was nothing better to do than watch
it. And that the first, like I said, the first 4 bars of the theme song, it was like, got a reach to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that for sure. So you kind of touched upon this before, but you were working on the X-Files kind of like, one could say, at the height of its success. It was a full-blown phenomenon. And then I was reading up on you today, and it looks like...
oh, dear.
Yeah, all good things. It looks like you were recognized by the Academy of Arts and Sciences for your contribution to the show. What was that like for you?
what that was actually I think it may have been the last year that X-Files was in Vancouver, or maybe the second to last year, when we won all those Emmys. And Greg Lowen and Gary Allen had won for art directors for a particular episode. Don't ask me to name it. I know it was a comic book one, and something to do with a huge tent with fleas or something. I don't know. Don't ask me.
It's okay.
Starts with an M, I think. I don't know. Anyway, it was a long time ago. I was graciously bestowed with that honor because of Greg Lowen. I guess there is, when an art director or anybody wins an Emmy, they have the option of giving note to the Academy to acknowledge the people that helped them get that Emmy. And he put me forward to the Academy, and that's how that happened. So yes, I am acknowledged by the Academy that I exist as a human being.
That's
as
awesome.
An artistic human being, which is great. That didn't mean I went to the ceremony. It's actually post-ceremony. Greg Lowen, everybody that was nominated that year went to the ceremony, and that little gift came to me, I think a week later. And I'm very honored to have it. Very honored.
Nice. All right. So,
I have a certificate, not the statue.
Oh, okay.
And it's framed somewhere in the house.
Nice.
Unfortunately, people think I made it because, I mean, for a living, I make fake passports and everything that you can imagine under the sun, including Moroccan tiles, which is what I did last week. So they just look at it and go, oh, yeah, thinking I made it. No, it's a real thing.
Well, listen up, X-Files fans who are watching this. She did not make it. She earned it.
I did not make it. It's a real thing.
It's a real thing, properly earned, hanging up in her home.
Yeah.
You heard it here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So the last two questions we have asked everyone that we've had the opportunity to speak with. So what are your thoughts? Why do you think the X-Files is still relevant 27 years later after its premiere?
Oh, Jesus. 27 years. Well, just like everything that's still relevant today, it was gorgeous writing. It was gorgeous setting, and underlying that was that bewildering relationship between Mulder and Scully, without being that trope of will they, won't they nonsense. You know, it was intellectual. I think that's timeless. It was cerebral but relatable, and it was fascinating. And it was also a topic that all of us find interesting. Is there life out there? You know, do you believe? And I do. I think it's extraordinarily egotistical to say we're the only ones. Ridiculous, really. And I you know, it was just so well crafted as a show, and kudos to Chris Carter. Every year on a show you take a crew photo at the end of the season, and I remember seeing a crew photo of the first season because Fox sort of banished him to this little place called Vancouver to do his little show, and I remember seeing the first season crew shot. And there was maybe 20 people. And at the last crew shot, which I was part of before they moved to LA, there was over 300 people. And all of them smiling. And it was very much like a family. It was such a loving environment to work in, supportive environment. People were there from season 1 to season 6 or 5 or whatever it was. Sorry. Same crew of people, you know, except for a few exceptions because I came on. But and that's the very in film. Not only is in television not only is that a bit rare to have the same crew for that long. It's a testament to Chris Carter and all those people to make it such a loving and inviting and creative environment that people felt so welcomed in. And that's the other thing that doesn't get talked about a lot. I mean, I remember when Piper, Gillian's daughter, and Clyde's daughter, who was the first art director, she would come into the art department with her nanny as a little tiny kid. And then she was my assistant on the first revival of X-Files. And she did some great illustrations for that, actually. She's a very gifted artist. And so that's the kind of family environment that, you know, I did the revival how many years after the show ended. And there was Piper outside my office door as my little assistant. And I remember her being just this little toddler, well behaved, I have to say that. But now she's brilliant and very, very talented. And that's sort of the environment that has been created from this show. So outside of the fans loving the show for the writing and all that other stuff that goes on, as far as my takeaway personally being involved, it was a wonderful experience just as an inclusive, family-oriented, great place to work environment. And that doesn't get talked a lot about. And people talk about egos and this and that, and it didn't exist. It didn't exist. You know, David and Gillian, extraordinarily lovely. Everybody was lovely. I want to put that out there because it doesn't get talked about a lot. And it's the truth. And we had a lot of fun. We laughed a lot. It was great fun. It was long hours, as television is, but it was great fun.
No, that's great. Thank you for sharing that with us. It's nice to hear that.
I have some photos.
Yes.
I have some photos. The art on the last season of X-Files, I did something cheeky, and I did a little video to sum up, to say thank you to Chris Carter, and I did it with my then husband, who was a DOP, and he shot it all, and the art director Vivian Nishi, and we gave everybody at that time a VHS copy of it, but it was going around and interviewing everybody and letting them express their thanks to Chris Carter, and it turned out beautifully. I don't have a copy of it anymore. I don't know what happened to it, but we put a lot of, and some people were just hilarious, and it was really great. Again, going back to the family environment. But I don't know if you can see this, but that was at the wrap party, the very last X-Files. That's me.
Yes.
And that's Vivian Nishi. And this guy, I don't know who that guy is. But he wanted to thank us for doing the video. And everybody got a copy. It was just a nice way to say thank you and goodbye. And this was a little picture of the day after.
Oh my goodness, how cool.
And this was how crowded my office was.
Look at that look at that monitor.
I know. So that was Greg Lowen's look, they used to draft properly. That was Greg Lowen's drafting table. That was the extraordinary Gary Allen. That's my niece, Lisa. And yeah, grab a hold of that, people. Yeah. and these little things called zip discs. Look at that.
I remember those.
The whole lifeline of X-Files is on that.
Oh my goodness.
Unbelievable.
That's wonderful. Thank you for digging those out for us. That's great. My last question, and of course you're free to add whatever you want to this interview, but I do have one last question, and that is, what is your message to the X-Files fans?
Oh gosh, keep believing. What would I say? I think it's just lovely that everybody just enjoys it for what it was and is, and enjoys the writing and all the people involved, it's a lot of work. I want everybody to know that it's a lot of work. It's many, many hours. It's over 60 hours, 70 hours a week to give you that. And I'm so appreciative of the kindness. I remember after the first season I worked on the show, I took my stepkids at that time to Disneyland, and I was wearing my X-Files without even thinking. I was wearing an X-Files jumper because it was the warmest thing I had at that time, and it just happened to have the big X on it, you know. And I was bombarded by people, and I forgot why. I was completely oblivious to everything. And it was like, why are these people and I got scared until everything that they said was so nice. And I wish I could take credit for half the things that they said. Oh, well, thank you for liking the show so much. And they asked me what I did and everything. And it's moments like that that you forget that those 60, 70 hours that you're doing actually entertains and is nice for other people to enjoy. And you tend to forget that when you're in the mix of it, like I am currently. But it's really nice to get the feedback, and it is appreciated. And well, I just think the fans, thank you for loving it so much, because many, many people put their heart and soul into it. And it's always nice to be appreciated, isn't it? So that's lovely. And I believe, so keep believing.
That's great. Thank you. And, on behalf of Carly, she couldn't be here, but on behalf of Carly and myself, thank you for all your 60, 70-hour weeks and your
Holy yes.
and your contribution to this great show that just keeps on living, and everyone revisits it when they are having hard times in life, and they put on the X-Files.
That's lovely, isn't it? It's especially now, I've gotten emails from people from all over the world that have just discovered it. Which is extraordinary as well. I guess through Netflix at some time or something. And people had time, they had time last year. And the feedback was always positive and sweet. And what a great, when you do that hard work, it's really nice to know that it's given a positive aspect to people's lives. That they enjoy it and that they look forward to it. And it's nice to know that people rewatch it. I mean, I get joy from rewatching them too, because after a certain time you forget certain things, and now I can separate myself from the work and I can just enjoy it like everybody else. Right. And yeah, it's a good little show. Yeah.